Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the A3U Review. In this episode, we're going to start off by taking a look at the new masterpiece, Optimus Prime from the Shattered Glass series from Hasbro.
That's right, and then we have something special. Ran into a guest in Hong Kong.
Ooh!
Yeah, I just came back. So we got some cool stuff to show you from Hong Kong.
Cool, alright, my name's Alex.
I'm Boris.
You're watching
the
A3U Review. So we're gonna kick off this episode with not really a comparison, but more like a spotlight. I think we should take a look at this right here. That's the Shattered Glass masterpiece Optimus Prime.
A lot of people have asked, I don't know if it's just the box that's deceiving.
Yeah.
They keep asking if it's actually smaller than the MP10. So I just kind of, after hearing that quite a bit, I kind of wanted to debunk that. It's not smaller, and then also just to kind of show it off and maybe have some opinions from me and you on some of the color changes.
Yeah.
For most of you that actually have the figure, you guys probably know by now, Shattered Glass Prime is actually Masterpiece Prime.
Yep, that's right.
It's the same mold.
Yeah.
MP10 all over again, in a completely different scheme this time around. A lot of people have also asked about, what comes in the package.
Yeah.
Does it come with everything MP10 did? I'd like to say that it's actually paralleled closely with the other kind of Platinum series type of reissues, even though it's not a Platinum series. It's very similar to that.
It's its own thing.
Yeah, it's very similar to those kind of reissues. So a good example would be the Year of the Horse Prime.
Yes.
As you guys remember, Year of the Horse Prime released in the Platinum series kind of long box.
Yeah.
Actually almost the same dimensions as this. The box itself had a window boxing, just like this guy here.
Yep.
You'll see the Shattered Glass has its own little Shattered Glass decoing going on in the window box. But it's very similar to Year of the Horse packaging. And it also is very similar in what they give you. They give... I don't have the trailer here with me, but the trailer is exactly the same as this guy here, except it was clear. Yeah. With a little bit of clear blue in it too for the roller, or not for the roller, but for the inner accessories here, the little medical bay. And it also came with the axe, which I'm missing. I don't know where it went. It was a blue translucent axe. Yeah. And of course his signature gun. So I kind of just brought this guy out because it's very easy to kind of compare it, because it's actually very similar to what you get with the Platinum.
Pretty much identical, like physically, just not in color.
Yeah, exactly. So same mold, guys. Nothing smaller about this guy. I think it's just the way it was packaged. Yeah. It's so compact.
Yeah, when you have such a big box and, this guy only takes up like half or less than half of it, then it gives you the perception that it appears smaller.
Yeah, exactly. And then the trailer behind it just takes up so much room. Yeah. Scale aside, I do kind of like what they did with the purple, Alex.
Yeah. Well, it's a good scheme. I think the purple and these this kind of navy blue and this gray, I think they all go well together. I'm just not a fan of the whole theme itself. I think the colors go well together, but I'm just so used to red and blue and the traditional colors that this is something I would buy if I were a completist. It's not something that really does very much for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It felt like they found an easy opening and they did try to fill it in. Most of you that follow the Transformers universe, of course, this is a very big storyline for the BotCon figures that we've seen of the past. And essentially, it's just what if the Autobots were bad guys and the Decepticons were the good guys, so they all got these different kind of schemes. This purple is a very iconic purple for the Shattered Glass.
For sure.
Prime, of course. It's what you said, Alex. It feels like they just kind of just put it together and just to fill in a void. And, it wasn't done exceptionally well either. I mean, I like the purple, like I said, but there's a few things I feel like it's just really missed the point on.
It's a little bit lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit lazy.
The smokestacks and these here specifically, I mean,
they couldn't do silver. They couldn't do like dark or gunmetal or something.
Yeah, I think a gunmetal would have been. You're right. It would have been really, really well done. I'm glad they didn't necessarily chrome it.
Yeah.
But there's, I mean, they did the gold chrome here, which was, in my opinion, awful for this. For this Year of the Horse thing. I wish they didn't do gold with it, but I mean, whatever. Some people like it. But I mean, could have done black chrome easily on here, right?
Yeah.
The black chrome would have been a great complement to this whole scheme.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like it's like super duper like more cost to do that kind of a thing anyways. Though I do have to commend them. They did bring this whole thing in at a very good price for everything that you're getting. But not like such a great price that it was like that much better than the Year of the Horse Prime either. So I felt like they definitely could have incurred some costs to just make it a little bit better so that we enjoyed it. Another thing that it doesn't have going for it is these, I feel like these green windows. If they had changed the color of those and gave it some more contrast once again, that might have been a little bit better. And then also like this little shattered glass deco. Feels very sloppy once again, just like a very simple print on there. Hopefully there'll be some sticker sets that come out for it that fix that and make it look a little bit better. Otherwise, not like a overwhelmingly great figure. I just think it is mediocre, but for those completionists, like you said, this might be a good addition to your collection. The trailer is complete. It comes with everything other than the roller, and then it's done in this really nice black purple scheme. The trailer actually looks really good. So that part worked out well for them. That's kind of it. There's not a whole lot going for this guy.
Like you said, or like we both agreed on, completists. Like if you have the original Prime and then the Ultra Magnus, the white version, then there's Nemesis Prime, and then there's the black. There's just so many versions, and then now you have this, so might as well get this as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I had the opportunity to kind of have an early look at it when I was in Hong Kong.
Wait a minute. You were in Hong Kong?
Yeah, that's right. We kind of hinted at it last episode.
That's right.
Yeah, I would be in Hong Kong to do some cool things, and I actually ran into someone familiar face out there.
And who would that be?
As you all may remember, Spencer, who used to be on our show.
Season 1 of the A3U review, it was just me and Spencer.
That's right.
So
Season 1 and 2, I think.
And 1 and 2, yeah. So you met up with him?
I met up with him, and every now and then, as you guys know, he has done a guest appearance.
Yeah, that's right.
And he had a lot of cool things to show me. But we thought we'd sit down and just kind of hash out a video for you guys while we were there, because can't have a season go by without having guests.
Yeah, that's right.
Guest appearing in some spot. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's
head
take
over.
a look.
Yeah, let's head over to Hong Kong.
As you may or may not know, I have actually left Ages 3 and Up a while ago, and I moved myself to Hong Kong to work a little bit closer with a couple of third-party companies, one of those being MakeToys. I spent the last year working with MakeToys, bringing their MakeToys experience to the English-speaking world.
And I've been to one of these. It's really kind of cool. The actual experience allows the audience to actually play around with some of the cool MakeToys products, right?
Correct. And this year we had an opportunity, several people had an opportunity within the Transformer community to test some samples of ContactShot. And I thought that this would be a really great opportunity to sort of give you an idea of what it means with samples and where companies are at with different levels of their samples.
Give you guys the MakeToys experience, so to speak.
Sure. Well, what I have here these are 3 different samples in the evolution of creating a figure. And as we've seen before, one of the very first things that companies get is they get a resin sample. And resin is when they take the 3D and they just print it, kind of like on a big giant industrial 3D printer. And unfortunately I don't have a resin sample of ContactShot on hand, but once they have the resin, they then go into tooling and manufacturing. And the tooling is done where they take giant pieces of metal, carve it out, and create a mold for the figure. And what they have to do is, as they create the mold, they need to test it several times.
Right.
So what we have here in gray is actually a very early test of the ContactShot mold. And this is not the first test, but maybe a second test, where it's still quite loose in several areas and is fully functional. So it does transform, but it doesn't always fit together exactly perfectly. So a lot of times when you see reviewers and whatnot who get a test shot or a sample, it's not always a final, and so you might see that it might not fit together properly or have a loose joint or something along those lines. So pretty hard to judge a figure on a test shot.
Although many people kind of do. But I mean, I think that's the whole point. That feedback is exactly the feedback that the company is afforded when they do these test shots, right? They can actually themselves be able to be like, this doesn't quite look right, or this is like loose, you know, and fix it before it actually gets in your hands.
By the time they actually get into plastic, the company has already decided how it will transform, and it's very unlikely that a lot of changes will be made at that point. Right. So by the time that ContactShot is in plastic, the transformation is down and really no changes are made.
So it's just mainly about like more of the QC kind of fixes.
QC fixes.
Yes.
Aesthetically, you can still make some changes, like if you wanted to make a bumper shorter or longer, or if you felt that it needed more of a curve or face sculpts or these sort of things. They can be changed, but by this point they have to be changed in metal.
Right.
So a much more complicated change than just carving resin or changing the 3D.
And for those of you that don't know, when tooling is done, it is done in kind of a metal kind of mold. So it actually is a lot of work to change anything at that point, from what I understand.
Yes.
Without actually destroying the entire mold sometimes and just recreating
starting from scratch.
Yeah. So pretty much, I guess what you're saying, Spence, just to summarize, is that once the thing is done in resin, and if there's any transformation changes to be made, you kind of almost want to do it at the resin stage, correct?
Yes. When a designer gets their hands on the resin, they transform it a few times, make sure that it works. If they feel it doesn't work, they would not go to plastic. Mm-hmm. They would go back to the 3D, make the changes there, and then create another resin sample to make sure that it does work as they want it to.
Tell me a little bit about why the gray plastic before the colored plastic. Is it because they just haven't made the choices at this point yet? Too preliminary? When
we had done the MakeToys special event, we had planned out through the year where the stages in the factory are and how we could do that for the MakeToys event at the same time.
Right.
So in this instance, we have the gray plastic. Now generally at this stage, it would just be any color. It could be anything. It could be gray, it could be green, it could be purple, yellow, whatever plastics they happen to have around. But because we knew about the MakeToys event, we actually asked the factory to please do it all in gray.
Right, okay, cool.
So that's how we got it in gray in this fashion.
So
but
not necessarily integral part of the process to have the plastic in any color at.
Absolutely not. You can find plastics at this stage in any color whatsoever. It just happens to be whatever the factory has in excess that they can run through the molds to test it. So as long as the consistency of the ABS or whatever they're using is what they want for the final, then the color is irrelevant. So we were lucky because we were able to work closely with the factory and ask them to run it in all grays, and we were able to do that for our MakeToys special event. And this was the first event that we did in TFCon Toronto, and people were able to handle it at this stage, which is still really, really early. Several things on this sample, like the feet are still like really loose, and it actually has difficulty standing. And you can see the metal parts on here are still unpainted. They're just bare, just bare metal. So yeah, it's very rare for people to get their hands on a sample this early.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see.
Very cool. And then the other ones here are just, you know, kind of came a little bit later. Obviously, it looks like it got to this one.
Right.
And then ended up with, this is pretty close to the final. There's still, it looks like some decaling to be done and aesthetic things, but it looks like it's pretty much there, isn't it?
Correct. So after this stage, after you find all your tolerances and get closer to being fixed, they will decide on a color. And what happens is the factory will run it in several different colors sometimes, just to sort of knock the color into different choices that the manufacturer can choose from. And so in this instance here, we see a color sample. So they're working on getting the plastics to a color that they want to use for a final. And you can see some differences, like this is the metal piece that's been painted and the red doesn't match. This is the blue piece that's been painted, and you can see it actually doesn't match the blue from the plastic. So it doesn't match this plastic, but it's closer to matching this plastic. So it's testing the different shades of blue as well to see how it all sort of comes together. But you can see on the canopy is still clear plastic. There's no paint or anything there, and no detailing on any of the pieces. So this is just hammering down the plastic colors.
Awesome, awesome.
And then of course, once we hammer down plastic colors, we try different paint samples. So this will be more of a paint sample test. So you can see the blue and the blue match. So this is blue plastic, this is blue paint, this is blue paint, this is blue plastic. The colors match fairly good. The red paint on the die cast and the red are really close to being matched in their final colors. And you can see even on the heads, they have different silvers on the faces and whatnot. So this is very close to a final painted sample. Some of the things that they have added since this sample has been done is they added the tampoing on the side, which you can see in the final images, and they added a few small paint details like in the back. This actually had some yellow paint and a few other instances. They actually added paint. This one doesn't have it, but they added paint inside, some detailing inside the canopy. Nice. So the final is still even a little bit different from this one.
Wow. But I noticed this one does have like even some like silvers and whatnot on the actual wheels and all that. That's all paint as well, correct?
Yep, the paint on the wheels is silver. The silver on this, because this is a die-cast piece. So testing the reds, testing the silvers on the detailing. Yeah, it's all been painted up.
Oh, that's not hand paint, is it?
No, this is actual masking and painting at the factory level, because this sample is from the factory. Mm-hmm. Sometimes some companies will take a sample like this and then hand paint it and then send it back to the factory to show them where they want. But at this day and age, a lot of times by the time they get here, this is all taken from the 3D.
Right.
So they actually paint the 3D model, the factory takes that 3D and then applies it to their molding.
Awesome. Well, that's a really great look into how this process works, and a really big appreciation for, you know, when we do feel like sometimes something could be a little changed. You know, maybe the concept is a little concept, but the actual process in which you have to backtrack to sometimes is just not realistic and huge and costly for probably even the littlest change sometimes. Right?
Well, a lot of times the biggest issue that we have in our fandom is face sculpts. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, unfortunately, by the time they get it into plastic, changing face sculpts can be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Because if you have an item that has multiple faces, you need to change all the faces in the molding to get to a point. And it's not an easy process.
Exactly.
You know, changing a mold means adding metal, removing metal. It's actually quite complicated. It's very, very difficult.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of times when companies will reveal a figure and the fandom is like, oh, I don't like the face, just change it to this, or make him look older, or make him look younger. Not that easy. It's a really big job to make it happen.
And I think it's great to see that, you know, even in this kind of level of testing, that you know, I mean, I wish that there could be, you know, maybe we might do a show where we show a manufacturing process of some sort. But it is actually, you know, I had the luxury of getting to see some of this in action before, and it is quite intensive when you look at how many parts are involved in making something. And like you said, even a face sculpt, you know, adding metal to this huge mold, and the molds themselves, I mean, they're heavy. You need machinery to actually pick these molds up. It's not like I'm just gonna pick up an ice cube tray mold thing and, you know, pour some water into it and throw it in the freezer, right? And I think some people get this misconception that it's like this easy thing to work with, and it's absolutely not. And in some extreme cases, would you say that, you know, adding or removing metal is just not even going to cut it? Like, you're going to actually have to do something more drastic.
Yes, depending on the length of the change, like depending on how much you want to change. Detail is hard. Like, once you get into the minor detail, a lot of times you just have to like negate a mold. There's like nothing you can do. Sorry, dude.
Absolutely. So it really does put it in perspective when you know, we get to see all of this, even in the form that it's here. Because, you know, I don't think that fans understand that, you know, just, you know, redoing the mold is actually you know, like what we described there.
Yeah, well, anything that they have to do mold change wise means somebody has to actually modify the giant mold. It means like adding metal or removing metal. It's not an easy task. And so when you're looking at something, when you ask for a face sculpt change, or, you know, you're saying it's like he needs to look older, needs to look younger, or anything along those lines, it's a really big deal. And I think as a fandom, sometimes we miss that, like, our expectation is just, oh, whatever, it's easy, no big deal. But reality of the fact is, yeah, it's a really big deal. So
and the molds they're heavy, man. Like, you got to actually pick this up on a machine. It's not like someone can just toss it around, right?
Yeah, well, the molds need to go through, first of all, they run really, you know, liquefied plastic through, so they have to withstand heat. They need to be able to be run thousands and thousands of times without mold degradation or like twisting or anything along those lines. So yeah, you need a very, very formidable base. And even when you're running a mold that's only like, you know, 5, 6, 10 pieces, it's a really big piece of metal. But a lot of times these molds will run 20 pieces in them. And so, you know, imagine how big that has to be to, you know, to do anything. So when you need to change the mold, when you need to go in and like carve out a face or something along those lines, yeah, it's not easy. It's not fun.
It's not. And then from what I understand too, the molds have to be planned out quite well. So it takes a lot of experience and, you know, learning curve to know even exactly how to plan out what's going to go in what mold, right? What pieces will go in what mold,
right? Well, exactly. In an instance for a ContactShot, you wouldn't want to mold the canopy with the fender. It wouldn't make sense because you have to run different colors. So the canopy will need a separate mold from the fender, and this piece would need a separate mold from the legs, and the metal would need a separate mold from the legs as well. And then of course when you use different materials, because sometimes you have a softer material or a harder material, those are all different molds as well. So sometimes when you have a figure like this that's actually quite complicated and hundreds of pieces, you'll have quite a few molds involved as well when you're dealing with this. So yeah, definitely, really, really big job. Hats off to manufacturers, because it's way beyond anything I want to handle on a daily basis. Totally. It's actually like, it's a lot of work. So
yeah, well, thanks for bringing us into kind of this world. I think it's a much needed look. You know, maybe in the future we can kind of take a closer look at the exact, you know, kind of process that it goes through from manufacturing, from tooling to the mold to the actual painting process and everything. And never mind assembly. There's also the assembly.
Assembly is a whole other game.
Yeah, so you know that's something that we don't even have, you know, set out here. I mean, that's from what I understand, it's like a model kit. You know, it comes on a sprue in pieces, and you have to cut it out and assemble it.
Yes.
And so all of that kind of stuff, it's quite intensive. What you're seeing here is already the assembled part. So even looking at it this way, it's kind of a lot of work represented here to begin with. So thanks a lot, Spence. You know, while we have Spence here, we're gonna take a look at something else that's cool. So speaking of factories,
speaking of test shots and samples,
yeah, we've got something new here to look at. Well, newish. We've seen already the first kind of test shots of it.
Yes.
So this is one of the closer ones, correct?
Yeah, this is a primary paint shot, paint test shot, and this is sort of what. Many thanks to MakeToys for allowing us to take a look at this. This is an early paint shot, and so you can see on this sample the the anime accurate look they're going for. There is still work at this stage, and there's some things that haven't been done, and still lots of things to do. So just kind of an FYI. But this is the final paint scheme for the striping on the Dumby.
And it's actually looking very, very, very nice already, in my opinion. Like the looks like they're really nailing the kind of look. And it looks like they went for the more simplistic look of the tune. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is definitely, while it's real world accuracy in the vehicle mode, they went for the tune accurate paint scheme. So like most things that MT does, they have a really great blend of tune and toy. Instead of going the primarily tune accurate, which is in my opinion fairly boring for the most part, they try and make a very good blend of the two.
Right.
And so this is where, in this instance, you have clearly a very accurate car model. It's based very, very closely off the actual car, but of course the detailing is taken pretty much from the show.
Which is, I actually did like the simplicity of the show colors, because in bot mode it actually really does show up really nicely, it contrasts really nicely with the figure.
Yes.
And I noticed like that they've got that nice like little detailing on the red and the spoiler
the
here.
red stripe.
Really, really nice. You know, it's really hoping that they don't forget that. That to me is a really, really great part of the decoing. And then of course some of these accessories. I'm not sure, these have all been seen before.
Yes.
Accessories?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, we actually did have all the accessories available at this was part of the TFCon Chicago MT special group.
Okay,
so
awesome.
It was handled by several people in very early test form, and we did have all the accessories on hand. So they have been seen by people if you haven't been following the chatter.
Awesome. There you have it. We don't have a whole lot of time left here. And plus, I think there will be more test shots to come, so we can see a proper bot mode of it. But for now, I don't think a lot of people have seen it with some of the latest decals. Sorry, I was corrected on that term. Decals on this, yeah, it's looking sharp. Hope the audience likes the progression, and we're hoping to see this very shortly into production, right?
Yes. It's a lot of the final tests are being done as we speak. So I believe this is scheduled for first quarter of 2017.
Awesome. Well, look forward to it, and once again, thanks for really giving us a view into test shots, and then also providing us with some exciting new test shots to come.
And that's our episode for today. We hope you enjoyed it.
And speaking of special guests, we have another special guest next episode.
That is correct. Some of you guys might know him as Chris. Some of you guys might know him as Vangelis. We know him as Vangelis. And what does Vangelis talk about with us in the next episode?
Well, we had the luxury of getting a further test shot of the MMC Tyrantronus.
Ah, yes, that's right.
Yeah, last time we looked at it was the roundtable review.
At TFCon?
Yeah, as you know. And that thing was barely able to stand.
Yeah.
Let alone be transformed or anything. So we have a way more stable version to look at this time.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. Well, that is our episode for today, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. So if you enjoyed this episode, I hope you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, also follow us on Twitter at Ages3 and Up. And then we got Instagram.
That's right.
At Ages3 and Up. So we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.
Out.